Hi, this is CJ, and this is 316 Seconds. Let's go. Today, I want to talk to us about what to do when we've done wrong. The book of 1 John chapter 2 verse 1 says, "My little children, I am writing these things to you so that you may not sin. But if anyone does sin, we have an advocate with the Father, Jesus Christ the righteous." So, God's standard for us as children of God is that we do not sin, which means that within us lies the capacity and the ability to live a life with no sin. But God, in His wisdom and His understanding of our human frailty, has also made provision for the times wherein we do fall. And He says that when we do sin, which by the way is not His standard, but when we do it, that we have an advocate with the Father, Jesus Christ the righteous. Before we go any further, I think it's important to draw a distinction between repentance and an apology. In my opinion, an apology means you say that you're sorry. Repentance, in my definition, is a renouncement and a rejection of said behavior with no intention on repetition of said behavior. In repentance, you truly regret and you renounce and you reject the behavior without returning to it. This might be a bit graphic, but the book of Proverbs 26:11 says, "As a dog returns to its vomit, so a fool repeats his foolishness." So repentance means you don't return to the vomit. It means you're sorry, but more than you're sorry, you're rejecting and renouncing that behavior with no intention of returning to it. In terms of our response to having sinned against God as Christians, the ideal thing should be godly sorrow, which according to 2 Corinthians chapter 7 verse 10 produces repentance leading to salvation, not to be regretted. But the sorrow of the world produces death. And the reason why worldly sorrow leads to death is because it's sorrow that is done with no intention of renouncing or rejecting the behavior. It is sorrow that doesn't lead us away from said behavior. In the book of Ephesians chapter 4 from verse 18, Paul writes about these people who engage in worldly sorrow. He says, "Let me say this." This is the Living Bible translation. He says, "Let me say this then, speaking for the Lord. Live no longer as the unsaved do, for they are blinded and confused. Their closed hearts are full of darkness. They are far away from the life of God because they have shut their minds against Him and they cannot understand His ways. They don't care anymore about right and wrong and have given themselves over to impure ways. They stop at nothing, being driven by their evil minds and reckless lusts." That is not the way the Christian is supposed to react to having done a thing that is wrong in the sight of God. We are expected to come before God with a broken and a contrite spirit. We find ourselves now in the 51st book of the Psalms from verse 16. This is a psalm David writes after he has wronged God. And so he says, "For you do not delight in sacrifice, or I will bring it. You take no pleasure in burnt offerings." The sacrifices of God are a broken spirit, a broken and a contrite heart, O God, you will not despise. In the book of 2 Kings 22 verse 19, it reads, "Because your heart was tender, and you humbled yourself before the Lord when you heard what I spoke against this place and against its people, that they will become a desolation and a curse. And because you have torn your clothes and wept before me, I have heard you. declares the Lord. Psalms 34 verse 18, the Lord is near to the brokenhearted. He saves the contrite in spirit. We must come to the realization as people of God that there is an expectation of humility and brokenness which is sincere and heartfelt when we wrong God. If as a believer you ever get to the point where you're comfortable doing certain things that you know are wrong, child of God, be really concerned about that, because the chances are that your heart has been seared. Your conscience, which is the voice of God speaking to your spirit, has gone. And that is a terrifying place to be as a believer and as a child of God. So here is my prayer for every single one of us, that we shall live our lives up to the standard that God has equipped us and enabled us to live by His Spirit. And in the times when we do fall, that we shall come to God repentant and full of godly sorrow that leads to salvation. And we shall reject, renounce, and make no intention of returning to those things that we know hurt the God who had loved us and saved us Himself. God bless you and have a wonderful week in Jesus' name.